Hello everyone, my name is Abyssial, and today we're going to be doing a ranking video. Holy fucking shit, this hasn't been done 1,000 times before. Holy fuck. But in all seriousness, this is going to be one of the very few ranking videos I do, as I think these are some of the most fucking mass-produced type of Soulsborne clone videos on this platform. I also just think that it's like semi-lazy content in general. Like everyone in their 93-year-old geriatric grandpa has made a fucking Souls boss tier list video. Like it seems like these motherfuckers will rank anything these days.
We do not care.
Like,
oh, shit! I don't have anything else to rank and milk the shit out of anymore! Fuck!
oh wait, what's that? There are blood gems in Bloodborne?
Oh my god, guys! All blood gems in Bloodborne rank from worst to best!
But anyway, I just think this content is really, this whole platform is way too fucking chock full of this sort of garbage. But, yeah, this is gonna be one of the few videos I do like this. So, the way we're gonna be ranking these bosses is in terms of, like, overall. And what I mean by that is, I'm not gonna be sitting here ranking them based off of gameplay. Like, obviously, fucking, I don't know, like, Gehrman is gonna be higher than Rom in terms of gameplay because this is a dog shit fight compared to Gehrman. But you know, I don't actually know what else Rom would be ahead in Gehrman in, but you get the point. I'm gonna be ranking these and sectioning them based off of how good they are overall. So of course the gameplay, the music, the arena, I guess maybe, and the lore. Also, as you can see, this list will also include the Chalice Dungeon bosses too, as they're still very much a part of the game, and I think some of them are actually pretty good. But anyway, we're just going to start with One Reborn. I think One Reborn is a C-tier fight. I think it's a C-tier fight, because I think the soundtrack does make up for a lot of, for how bad this boss is, because this is a fucking tower defensive boss, let's be honest. This fight is hot fucking dog shit. The intro cutscene's pretty cool, the scenery's pretty cool, I like the arena. Fighting the boss isn't that interesting at all, though. Like, to this day, I'm still not even sure what the ladies at the top do in the boss. I'm not sure if they heal the boss, or just make it do more damage, or just whatever, just make it more resistant to your attacks, or whatever, but like, fighting this boss is it's like hot buns. It's so fucking dog shit. It's like, hit one of the heads, or like the part of the boss that's facing down, and then rotate around, hit the other side, hope that you don't get smacked a million times by the legs in between, or if you're on New Game 7, hope you don't get one shot by some like bullshit attack that comes out of nowhere and just wipes your whole health bar away. So I think this is a very did I say C or B? I think I said C tier boss. I think it's a high C tier though, because I guess the significance of the boss is pretty like important too. It's a failed attempt to become a great one. Like, they haven't done that before, but I think it's a pretty, it's not that enjoyable of a fight, but as I said, the music, the score for the Phase 2 especially, in this fight they go way too hard for no reason. Like, Godskin Duo in Elden Ring, this fight is just super extra for no reason when it comes to the soundtrack. The arena's cool, and like, the boss fight itself may not be that fun, but it's kind of satisfying when you, like, stagger him and you're, like, digging into him with a weapon. You're, like, shing fucking 60 times, like, digging into him. So I'm gonna put him at C tier. I'm not gonna rant about this boss for 5 hours, because there's just no need. Pretty cool boss, but, not very good gameplay-wise, so it just stays in C tier. Alright, next up is Witcher Hammock, D tier. This boss is garbage. Like, there's nothing good about this boss. Like, I genuinely struggle to find anything good about this boss whatsoever. The fight is hot dog shit. The arena is hot dog shit. The music is hot dog shit. The lore is, I don't even know the lore. This seems like a filler boss they just chuck in to fit the area of whatever it's in. Like, it's a dog shit fight. Like, I guess the slight, I will say slight use of insight in the fight, regulating how many mad ones spawn during the boss, is kind of cool, but it just regulates, it just determines how much gank is in the boss, which isn't really that it isn't a very creative use for insight, in my opinion. I mean, overall, I think in Bloodborne, insight should be utilized a lot more than it is. It's barely utilized for fucking anything. But I just, this boss is hot garbage. I don't need to stay on this top fucking boss for like 5 minutes explaining why it's garbage. So anyway, next, Rom. I think Rom is a C tier above One Reborn. I think it's very high C tier. Now, the fight itself is kind of like One Reborn. This is like another like fake Great One boss. It's not a failed attempt to become a Great One. It's just, she's just a kin, right? But this boss is still pretty garbage, right? Even on first playthrough, when you're fighting her, I think it's a her, or maybe it's an it. I don't know if they genders or not. But even on a first playthrough, when you're fighting her, this boss is really annoying. You just kind of have to kite the spiders that are around her away from her, or just do a really long, grueling like session of just killing all the spiders, hitting Rom for like a bit, and depending how much damage you do, you have to do this a certain amount of times. I mean, she only teleports like 3 times, so then again, that's true. But yeah, the spiders do ridiculous damage too. They like one-shot you, and they like plant their heads in the ground like fucking ostriches. But yeah, really cool arena, really cool design. I love the look of this boss. It's amazing, and the music's really fitting too. I think the music's really cool. That's why I think it's better than this boss, because it isn't just there's more to this boss than One Reborn, in my opinion. And of course, you know, the cutscene afterwards is really cool. Like, I think, like, along with Moon Presence, for example, I think there's a lot of missed potential with this boss. I think there are so many things this boss could have done. I might make a fucking video on that in the future. I could see so many things I could have done with Rom. Like, there could have been so many cool attacks this boss could have utilized. Like, this boss, in my opinion, could have been more than just a fucking tower defense boss, essentially, like One Reborn, where it just sits still and you fight its minions, and then hit the boss, and then it runs away, spawns more minions, gains the ability to do like a couple of fucking ranged cosmic attacks that one-shot you. And yeah, Rom's a pretty cool boss. I love the design, love the music, love the arena, love the lore, but the gameplay is just hot buns, hot dog shit. Next is Marligarius. I put Marligarius at a... he's definitely not A tier. I put him high B tier. Or mid B tier. I think he's really like an overrated boss. There's not much to him. His moveset is really boring. Maybe that's a hot take for me, I don't know, but he's extremely parryable, of course, like every humanoid boss in this game. I think one thing they should have done with Bloodborne, like as a whole, is something that I actually think they did right in Elden Ring, which is the use of it taking multiple parries to actually stagger the boss so that you can get repulsed off. I think since in Bloodborne it's so fucking easy to parry anything, you should like have it be a multi-parry system where you need to parry something multiple times, 2 or 3 times, I'd say, if you actually get the visceral off. And I know that might take you out of the like whole aggressive nature of the fight and whatnot, but I think it could work in this game if they did it right. I would encourage you to parry more and like get your timings on more, because like bosses like Lady Maria, for example, I think really suffer with this, because you can essentially just, well, bully her into a corner because she has no poise, but also spam parry her, and also kind of Gehrman, but not as much Gehrman. And Living Failures is not, it's not as much of a complaint for Living Failures because it's like 4 of them. Father Gascoigne is a parry machine too. Orphan of Kos is a bit harder to parry, but you can definitely still parry him. I'm pretty sure you can parry this guy. He's a humanoid boss. So Shadows of Yharnam, it makes sense, I guess, because they're like really insignificant enemy, and there's also 3 of them. So yeah, I think Marligarius, back to Marligarius, I think his lore is pretty cool. I think the location of which you fight the boss is really cool. The soundtrack is fucking amazing. I'll give him that. That's one thing I'll give him, is that the soundtrack is amazing. And in Phase 2, the thing where he like puts the sword in the ground, or like the particles and shit are in the sky and they all come, like they're shooting swords down at you and shit. I think that isn't actually that cheap. I know maybe some people are expecting me to go, oh, that's a cheap attack, that's cheap difficulty, I don't like it. But yeah, I think they could have done a lot more with this boss. Some people call this boss like the Pontiff of Bloodborne. I just don't agree. Like, why? Because he's a humanoid enemy with 2 swords? Like, no. I think he's pretty overglazed, in my opinion. He's not a bad boss by any means. He's pretty difficult in the first playthrough. I remember struggling with him quite a bit, but nowhere as much as the DLC bosses, of course, or Ebridas. Ebridas was the hardest in the base game for me, but I think I put him B tier. pretty cool, very cool music, very cool arena. I like the arena a lot. I don't remember if you can fall off the sides of the arena, I'm not sure, but very cool lore. As for the boss fight, it's not a bad boss fight per se. It's just, I would have expected a lot more. He's kind of got a basic-ass design, too. His design is really underwhelming. I don't know if I talked about the design as much with these other bosses. I mean, I did with One Reborn and Rum, but, like, with his design, he's not really that interesting of a design. He just kind of seems like a generic, like, old monarch guy with a crown and a beard and some robe, and yeah, that's pretty much it for him. Next up, we have Murgo's Wet Nurse. Murgo. I put this boss in A tier because the design of the boss and the music and the atmosphere of the fight are so fucking good, in my opinion, when combined all together, that it outweighs the extremely easy nature of this boss fight in terms of gameplay. This boss is way too easy. For what it is a great one. Not only that it's a great one, like, look at the thing. It's too much of an easy, like, the boss is way too easy. I feel like it could utilize a lot more attacks regarding its wings, because it literally has giant angelic wings on the back of it. Moon Presence has wings too, but they're like really tiny little shrunken down wings. You might be able to notice them. I know it descends down to you, but I don't necessarily think that means it can fly. But with Murgo, I think there should have been a lot more to this boss in terms of gameplay. It's way too easy. I think that the attack that she does in phase 2, where she summons a clone of herself, is actually a, like, pretty fun part of the fight, where you're like dodging both of them at the same time, and it's really intense, and you're not able to get many hits in. I think the fight should be like, not the whole fight should be like that, but I just think the boss should be harder. Everything else, it's amazing. The cutscene is cool. Like, I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of, like, cutscenes, different versions of, like, the same cutscene they did before this that were scrapped, which are cooler in my opinion. But the finishing one that they ended up with is pretty cool too. I'll leave a link in the description to those cutscenes if you're wondering. There were some cutscenes for this boss that were scrapped. Like, the intro cutscene was different to the one that we get in the game. But yeah, as I said, music, very cool. Lullaby from Murgo, very, very cool soundtrack. Sets the atmosphere amazingly. The Lunarium is a really cool place to be in too. The boss design, I think this is the greatest. I think this is the best design in the game, maybe. I think this is, like, out of every single boss in this game, I think this is the most, like, creative, intuitive, just amazing design. I mean, Moon Presence might top it, I'm not sure. It's pretty close, but very cool boss. A tier for sure. Not high tier, high A tier by any means. But it is definitely an A tier for me, just for, like, I enjoyed this fight, even though it's not that difficult. I just give myself a shittier weapon to, like, circumvent that, I guess, and just carry on with the fight. Just kind of, like, handicap myself a bit so I can enjoy more of the fight. But yeah, I put this boss in A tier. So then we have Celestial Emissary. This boss is dog shit. I put this boss in low C tier. It's not quite in D tier. Doesn't quite hit the mark as this pile of fucking abhorrent dog shit here that shouldn't even be in the game, to be honest. Celestial Emissary is cool. I think their design is supposed to sort of, like, make fun of humans for like, their design resembles a very, like, normal pop culture looking alien, which I think is supposed to poke fun at, like, what humans think aliens look like in Bloodborne. So, like, Celestial Emissary are technically, I guess, I mean, the achievement says when you kill them that they're a great one, but they're not a true great one because they're artificially created. But overall, in terms of the boss fight, this fight is hot cheeks. This fight's absolute dog shit. It revolves around you just killing a bunch of miniature versions of them to hit the real one in between all of them, and if you hit it enough times, it transforms into this thing that you see on the picture here, and then you hit it some more, and it grows like cosmic hair, which is really cool. I think their design is really cool. I think they're funny, like glibby-dibby alien design. As I said, I think it's supposed to very purposefully poke fun at the fact that, you know, out of anything that humans can come up with, the choir, this is what they think aliens look like, which is like, you know, of course the boss after this is in quite the contrast, right? This is what humans are able to come up with. It's just this, like, basic pop culture design of aliens. But the music's, I don't really remember much of the music from this fight. The arena is kind of cool, I guess, but most importantly, the gameplay. And even these two tower defense bosses are better than this pile of dog shit in my opinion, because they're actually, like, they have more HP than this, but this boss has no HP at all. This boss dies in 2 seconds. If you can have a +6 weapon, I guarantee this boss is still gonna die in like sub 2 minutes. It has absolutely no HP at all. The fight is hot dog shit. They look cool, I guess. I think if this fight was more... I think if they got rid of, like, the unnecessary gank in this fight by just spawning a bunch of them everywhere and having you fight... Like, it's not even hard. The boss fight isn't difficult at all. It's just boring. It's just a really boring, underwhelming boss, in general. So, yeah, low C-tier boss. They're not quite D-tier. D-tier is for, like, the absolutely worst, abhorrent, like, dog shit fucking bosses that shouldn't even be in this game. So yeah, I put him in C. Fight's pretty ass. Next we have Ebrides. Now, I love Ebrides. I think Ebrides is an A-tier fight above Murgo. I like Ebrides, and yes, I'm aware of the camera problem that is with this boss. The camera in this boss is absolutely abhorrent. Although I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, I still think it's a problem, and I still think it takes away from the boss fight, definitely, 100%. Along with that fucking disgusting charge attack, which is... that's a whole section on its own, talking about the one charge attack. If you know, you know, alright? It's worse than the waterfall downs. But, Ebrides, really cool boss. Absolutely fucking banger OST. Really cool fight. Besides the camera being kind of dog shit, kind of cattywampus, I think the fight itself is actually quite exhilarating. I had so much fun. First time I played this game, I spent around 3 or so hours in this boss. I think this boss took me more time than Nameless King. I'm not sure at all, but I remember this fight being extremely fun. The setting is amazing. The design of Ebrides is really cool. I really like it. I really like the lore behind her, and the fact that she's just this great one the choir found, and just like feeding them insights now, and they're like, she's their god, and she just sits there mourning some other great one that isn't Rom, by the way. It just looks like Rom. The way I'd explain it is like, the great one that she's mourning at the altar of despair is like, think of it like Rom is like a caterpillar, and Ebrides is like the evolution from that caterpillar, so a butterfly, right? So that's pretty cool. I really like the design of the boss, as I said. I think it's up there with like Murgo and Moon Presence. Very cool. Although it is kind of like a take on Cthulhu, I think it is really cool. I think it's done really well. But still, I think this fight has a lot of missed potential. She has wings, and they're fucking massive, and they're clearly able to carry her through one flying attack, so I think the use of more attacks that utilize flight would be really cool in this fight. And as well as that, I think they should fix the camera. Obviously, I mentioned that before. Just, like, I don't know, zoom out the camera or some shit, because it's really fucking annoying. That charge attack is absolutely abhorrent. That fucking hitbox is probably the worst hitbox in any of these bosses in any of these games ever created by FromSoft. That is the most abhorrent, disgusting hitbox ever. If you fought this boss, you know. But yeah, really cool. I love the way her like face is like split open. You can see like the inside of her face. Really cool. And I'm going on glazing this boss for too much. Whatever. I like Ebrides. Really cool boss. Camera's fucked. Boss fight's cool though, nevertheless. Yeah, really difficult boss. I think it's the hardest boss in the base game in my opinion. Really cool soundtrack, really cool arena, and really cool lore. Alright, next up is the Yharnam Queen. Queen Yharnam. Holy shit, guys. It's the name of the game. This boss is cool. I remember this fight being pretty fun, actually. It does kind of suck that it's at the end of the Chalice dungeons, and most people, if not actually everyone, I think, will just fight this boss 1 or maybe 2 times if you somehow decide to go through that Chalice again. Or you can just use this glyph. You're welcome. But I think this is actually a really fun fight. You're probably gonna be crazy over-leveled for it by the time you get to it, considering that you've been through all the Chalice dungeons and probably some of the base game and the DLC at that point, but just, I don't know, downgrade your weapon. I'm gonna put this boss in very high B tier. I remember this fight being really fun, and I remember it being actually decently difficult, even though the Chalice dungeons don't scale with New Game Plus, I believe. I remember this fight being pretty cool. Very cool design. Of course, you see her in the Nightmare Mensis too. Very cool design, very cool lore, and pretty cool boss fight. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, and the music, I remember the music being pretty good, but yeah, Yharnam Queen, pretty cool boss. Like, as I said, I really like her design and her boss fight as well. Like, I remember actually really enjoying it, And I even went back to Bloodborne and bought PS Plus specifically for this video, just so I could see if it was as good as I remember it being, using the glyph I mentioned earlier on. And yeah, it's a really fun fight. It's a really good fight, in my opinion. So overall, to be honest, I think I'll put her in B tier. I think that's a pretty fair ranking for Yharnam. Alright, Ludwig, S. Yeah, it's like, where else do I put Ludwig? I do think that people glaze Ludwig a bit too much, but there's no denying that he goes in S, in my opinion. Like, the boss fight is just good. It's not bullshit. It's fair. It's fun. The fucking music slaps. The lore slaps. Everything. This boss just checks all the boxes. It ticks them off. Like, I'm trying to, like, squeeze as much out of this fucking part as possible, but you already know why Ludwig's good. Like, you already know why Ludwig's an S. I don't think I need to talk about why he's good, because it's pretty fucking obvious already. But I'll try to anyway regardless, purely just so that you all get to hear his theme fully play out in the background. So, I mean, yeah, gameplay, it's very good. Like, he's a good boss. I don't know what to say. He's not bullshit in any way particularly that I can think of. His phase 1 is really cool. It's really fun. His phase 2 is absolutely fucking amazing in so many different ways. And yeah, his lore is good. Like, I'm not going to spend 10 to 20 minutes going over Ludwig's lore, because I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you have an iota of knowledge when it comes to who this guy is and why he's here, and why he has a giant green sword in his second phase. Like, can you imagine if you fight this boss for the first time, and you commit the heinous crime that is skipping his cutscene, and he goes from this like quadrupedal stance like beast, and then you skip his cutscene, and all of a sudden he's just like standing up in bipedal stance with a fucking moonlight sword. But yeah, I hope by this stage his theme has finished playing out, because I really don't have anything else to say about Ludwig. He's an S. You all know why he's an S, and he stays an S. He's not my favorite boss, so yeah. Orphan of Kos, also an S. I put him above Ludwig because I love the lore of this boss. I love the reason why you're fighting him. I love the idea of the hunter arriving at the exact time, the exact coincidental time that a Great One is born, and the Great One wakes up and his fucking mom is dead, and he looks at you, assuming that you are the reason the mom... Like, it makes sense for him to be mad. Like, think about it. You're just born. You wake up on a beach. You look back. Your mom is fucking dead, and there's this guy with a saw cleaver or whatever at the other end of the beach staring at you. You're obviously gonna blame him for the death of your mom. So, I feel bad for the orphan, if anything. I really like his design. I love Phase 2. I think Phase 2 is the most fun out of any DLC boss ever, in my opinion. This is probably my favorite boss of all time, to be honest. The music is amazing. It suits the fight incomprehensibly well. The atmosphere is amazing too. The arena's cool. I love the way when you walk in, it's just like standing there staring at the sun because it doesn't know what to make of anything yet. It's just been born, and then halfway through the fight, it like evolves mid-phase 2, pretty much evolves. It gets bigger, learns how to two-hand the placenta, grows fucking eldritch wings, learns how to partially fly, and like, I guess, drift, like, levitate in the sky for a few seconds, throw like giant flesh balls at you, calls down to the fucking heavens above to its dead mother to summon waves of purple eldritch fucking lightning towards you. And yeah, it's just an amazing boss fight overall. I think this boss is the greatest boss in Bloodborne, and the greatest boss of all time, in my opinion. Very cool boss, very cool lore, whatever. I've already glazed this boss enough. Okay. Lady Maria, S, better than Ludwig in my opinion. I don't know, actually. Ludwig's... I think is she a better fight than Ludwig? Yeah, I think she's a better fight than Ludwig. Phase 1's kind of boring, in my opinion. Phase 2 is very, very, very fun. Phase 3 is absolutely amazing. You cannot breathe in Phase 3 of this fight at all, especially on New Game 7. Now, I do have some problems with this boss, even though I put it in S. There are some people, like myself, that think this boss is too easy. Too easy in the sense that you can kind of just bully her into a corner because she has, like, no poise at all, and parry the shit out of her, and that doesn't really help by the fact that she has, like, no HP to begin with, and that isn't just me being, like, some crazy edgelord that wants to do, like, 2 damage to a boss, or anything. I just think that she could have been a lot better. Like, I still think she should get staggered, but I don't think she should get staggered as much. The only weapon that doesn't seem to stagger her, from my knowledge, is the Blades of Mercy, which makes sense, but, like, have that maybe be for every weapon, that she staggers, like, every 2 hits instead of you being able to stagger her when you hit her 1 time. I just think she gets staggered way too easily. She's way too fucking parryable, which brings me back to the point I made earlier about saying that in Bloodborne you should have to parry the bosses 2 or 3 times to be able to visceral them. So I think she definitely suffers from that problem, but besides that, don't get me wrong, I still think the gameplay is amazing. Very cool boss, very cool fight. I don't think she has too little moves, I think she has enough attacks. I'm pretty sure her soundtrack has to be my favorite out of all the bosses in this game. Like, bro, every time I listen to this OST, it's so damn good that I transcend. If I lock in hard enough, if I listen and lock in hard enough, I transcend to a different dimension. I ascend to a different plane of thought. Like Mikolash says, eyes line the inside of my head when this soundtrack plays in the 3rd phase. It is that good. Like, I'm yet to find a soundtrack in the entire... Okay, well, maybe like Mesmer's and like a couple of other Souls tracks, but like none of them top this soundtrack, in my opinion. None of them whatsoever. In terms of being epic and being overtly grandiose in so many different ways, no Souls tracks top Maria's theme. Gehrman's comes close and maybe tops it, but in a different way, if you know what I mean. It's not epic in the slightest, but yeah, I love the lore behind her and the way that she's a distant relative of Queen Annalise and the Vilebloods, and that even though she's very against using her blood blades that come from her family, that she'll do it anyway to stop us from reaching the fishing hamlet and eventually the body of Kos. But yeah, very cool. I think Maria's S tier. I think all of the bosses in the DLC are S tier except for Living Failures, so yeah. Watchdog, this just seems like some... I don't even know the significance of this fight, to be honest. Like, Watchdog of the Old Lords, who the fuck are you, bro? Like, I don't know the significance of this boss at all. It's a pretty joke of a boss fight because he has like no health and you're just kind of overleveled by the time you get to him. Unless you fight him in the Defiled Chalice. But, I mean, yeah. I at least like the way that he's actually an original boss, and I'm pretty sure maybe has his own soundtrack. I'm not sure on that. Unlike a lot of the bosses in the Chalice dungeons who are just carbon copies of basic enemies in the base game, which is just fucking lazy. So, he gets extra points for that, I guess. C tier. I'll put him right here. Alright, Lawrence. Lawrence. A lot of people hate Lawrence. I don't hate Lawrence as much as other people. I think that for Lawrence, I think one of the things that they should have changed with him is, I think his phase 1, with all the things that I do like about this boss, I'll get to them later. Things that I don't like about this boss is the fact that he is a very unoriginal phase 1 in the sense that it is literally just the same Cleric Beast boss fight, but he's on fire and he has like 2, maybe 3 new moves in which he like trips and falls on the ground, which gives you like a, like kind of prepares you or just gives you like a signal for what phase 2 is going to be like, I guess, right? But I also don't like the fact that he has the exact same design as the Cleric Beast, considering that Vicar Amelia is also a Cleric Beast. Like, she has her own unique design, and, you know, some people might say that, oh, it's because she's a girl and, you know, she'll look this way, and, you know, Lawrence looks like this because the Cleric Beast at the start of the game is a guy and Lawrence is a guy. And while I do think that's a valid point, I also just think that that's too simple of a way to put it. I just think that although he is a Cleric Beast, and you know, he's the first vicar, and he was the first cleric beast. I think he should at least have his own original design. He should still resemble the cleric beast, definitely, but I think they could have done something different with like his head or his body. Maybe even just make him a bit bigger, because he's literally a one-to-one carbon copy of the cleric beast. He's just on fire. That's the only difference. I think that was pretty lazy on their part. This was probably a bit rushed from what I can see. But yeah, I wish he had his own design and new moves instead of just copying the exact same moveset as the cleric beast in phase 1. But as for phase 2, a lot of people hate phase 2 because they say that it reduces their fast-paced, aggressive game down to dogshit area management and slow defensive gameplay, which I can kind of see, but I think, in my opinion, all of that gets overwritten by the fact that I just love phase 2. I love phase 2 because I love the tragedy of phase 2. I love the music that backs it in phase 2. I love the fact that he's like shitting and spitting lava everywhere. I think that's really, really cool. And yeah, man, I'm glazing the soundtrack so hard here, but the soundtrack is so good in this boss. It's so good. Like even in phase 1, like, the soundtrack is still good. It takes like little motifs from the cleric beast, obviously, because he's the first fucking cleric beast. And yeah, really cool boss. A lot of people don't like phase 2. I can see why, but I like it. You know, it's not as good of a phase 2 as like Ludwig or Kos or Maria, but at least it's a drastically different phase 2. Unlike Living Failures, for example, where they literally just gain the ability to do one extra move, and that's it. But yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you. This fight is absolute cinema, at least in phase 2. Anyways, I think Lawrence as a boss in general is a low S tier. That might be me glazing a bit too much. He's not on the level of like Ludwig, Maria, or Kos by any means, but I still think he's an S tier fight, considering his character in the story of how much of a part he plays. And you know, you see him washed up like this in the Hunter's Nightmare. You get to fight the guy that started the Healing Church and is essentially responsible for the beckoning of the Moon Presence and the spreading and corruption of the Beast Plague. Yeah, that's all his fault. He's like the fucking purple guy of this game or some shit. But I think he's very cool boss in general, and not as bad as people say. Alright, next up's Father Gascoigne. I think Father Gascoigne is an A tier fight. I just put him at the end because I like Murgo's fight more than Gascoigne, in my opinion. Gascoigne's good. He visibly doesn't do anything wrong. He introduces a lot of the main themes in the game for you at the start by essentially showing you someone who is just a victim of the Beast Plague. Basically just a normal person, you know, like a father who has a whole family. Like, there's a whole quest line in the game centered around his daughters. But yeah, and I think he's probably the best starting boss in the FromSoft games, in the Souls games. I mean, I guess you could say Cleric Beast is like the starting boss because most people encounter him first, but he's not mandatory, so I'm just going to say Father Gascoigne is the starting boss. And yeah, he teaches you a lot of the mechanics of the game, teaches you to be aggressive, transforms into a beast in phase 2. He's a hunter, so very cool. And my only problems with this boss, I guess, aren't necessarily gameplay related issues with the boss doing X or Y wrong, or the arena, or the music. I think the music is amazing for this boss. Really cool music, really cool OST. The lore for this guy is pretty good too. It's not anything crazy, you know, like holy shit, this guy's a great one or anything, but it adds atmosphere to the game. It builds character, and I think it's really cool. But still, I just don't think this guy's an S tier fight. I can't say why. He does pretty much everything right. He's a good fight, don't get me wrong. Like, I just think that maybe, I guess one slight problem I have with him is that he doesn't really have a lot of HP. And I know you're like,
Actually, well, bro, you know, he's the starting boss of the game. Of course he has no HP.
But I think if he just had a bit more HP, you know, considering the aggressive nature of Bloodborne and how often you're hitting things, I think he has pretty low HP. So I think if he just had a bit more HP, to be honest, I could maybe enjoy the fight for longer and have it be more of a memorable fight and more of a challenging fight, because, you know, I'd have to endure more of the boss for longer. But aside from that, you know, he's a good boss. There's nothing particularly bad about him in general. I just don't think he's on the S tier level, in my opinion. He's not bad by any means, but I just don't think he's significant enough to put him into S tier, if you get what I mean. But yeah. Alright, what's next? Amygdala. Amygdala is a fucking shame of a boss. Such a cool design. Such a cool design, and the fight is hot dog. Should I put this fight in B tier? Mid to low B tier, probably. This fight isn't as bad as One Reborn or ROM, in my opinion, but it's still not great. The only thing saving it from falling into that tier is the, I guess, significance it plays in the game, and also its design, and the fact that it's actually a great one. The fact that its head is just this giant punching bag that you do insane damage to, might I add, is like kind of busted in my opinion. Makes the fight really boring, where you essentially have to kite one move, just like bait one move over and over and over and over and over again, get it to slam down its hands onto the floor so you can go in to like a charged R2 or some transform attack to do enough like posture damage to stagger it, to do a visceral, and then repeat, and then it rips its arms off, and then you hit its hands and its head and it dies, and it's like, wow guys, what a memorable fight. Like, along with a lot of the bosses in Bloodborne, I think this boss is insane missed potential. Like, it's a great one, and it's an actual great one too, not like some sort of fake or artificial great one like One Reborn or Celestial Emissary or Living Failures. Like, this isn't even a lesser Amygdala or anything from what I know. It's a full-fledged, full-form great one. So make it feel like you're actually fighting a great one. Like, I wish that it just utilized more of its anatomy in like more of a creative way, I guess you could say. I do think the lasers that it shoots from its head are pretty cool, but they're not very intimidating like Midir's from DS3, for example. So that's kind of a shame. Overall, I don't know what else to say about Amygdala. There's so much wasted potential here. Like, even though I slandered this boss a shit ton throughout this whole section, I don't actually think that the fight is that bad, or that it's like that bad of a fight in general. Most of my disappointment with this fight, I guess, just comes from the wasted potential that it is. For such a cool looking boss, I really expected more. The soundtrack is cool, I guess. The arena is cool also, I guess, but really underwhelming boss. Alright, Living Failures. Let me see. Living Failures. I don't think Living Failures is an A tier boss. I don't think it's up with like Father Gascoigne, Murigo, or anything. I think it's a high B tier boss. I don't know. I wouldn't put them in A tier. I'm trying to think. I'll put them right here. I don't think they're more of an enjoyable fight than Ligarius, but I think it's not a dumb gank fight. You know, some people go, oh, gank, I have to fight multiple enemies at the same time. Gank. It's like, no, it's not fucking gank. It's just good use of multiple enemies that aren't all on your ass at the same time, making it not bullshit. Like, you have two aggressive guys, two defensive guys, and they complement the fight pretty well, making it not a gank fight. As for anything else in the fight, you know, I think gameplay is pretty cool. There's nothing crazy about the gameplay. You kind of just like parry them into oblivion. It's a fun boss though. It's not a dog shit fight. I think it's a very fun fight in general. I think they go way too hard with the OST, as they do for a lot of Bloodborne bosses. Like insanely hard with the OST. I like the lore behind them being like essentially the failed products that would later become the Celestial Emissary. I mean, they have deflated heads, so I guess I can kind of see them being the Celestial Emissary, but it makes this whole point in the lore a lot less, I guess, cool when you realize that the Celestial Emissary is such an easy boss. Living Failures is a harder boss than Celestial Emissary in so many different ways, and maybe that is simply because of the fact that there is just more of them, and if there was more like big Celestial Emissaries that you would fight, it would be as hard, and also because this is just the base game boss and it's the DLC boss. But I think that's pretty cool lore. Arena is very cool too. I really like their arena. I love the fact that this fight does something that the Abritas fight should have done, which is zoom out your fucking camera to compensate for there being multiple enemies and a giant arena, right? Which there is only one enemy in Abritas' fight, but I still think she could have just benefited from this as a whole with the Living Failures ultra-wide camera zoom out. So, very cool boss, not too difficult, not S tier by any means. This boss doesn't do anything insane that's going to make me put it in S. But yeah, very cool boss. So, Cleric Beast. I like Cleric Beast. I think Cleric Beast is a pretty fun fight. I'm going to put Cleric Beast in A tier. I think Cleric Beast, let me think. Did I have more fun fighting the Cleric Beast than Father Gascoigne? I don't know. I'll put him like right here-ish. I think I did have more fun fighting Cleric Beast than Father Gascoigne. Yeah, I really like Cleric Beast. I love his design and the way that he's just this like giant chimeric monster with this fucking hollowed out chest and emaciated frame that very purposefully conveys the idea of like starvation and eternal hunger. I also just love the fight in general, as well as his soundtrack, which has to be one of my favorites in the entirety of Bloodborne, 100%. I think he has the single most hardest boss track out of any FromSoft starting boss. But, I mean, going back to the fight, I do think he suffers from not having many moves or just too few attacks. Like, once again, I did make a video sort of talking about that, but it fell off like fucking crazy. So, yeah, go watch that if you want. I'll link that in the description. Very, very cool arena, although I think your camera kind of gets mushed into the sides of the bridge sometimes. And to top it off, he probably has the most iconic scream in the game. And there are a lot of screams in Bloodborne, let's face it, which I can actually do a very good impersonation of. Here's a quick preview. But anyways, yeah, Cleric Beast goes in A. Gehrman, S tier, 100%. I think Gehrman's a better fight than Ludwig, in my opinion. I put Gehrman here. Holy fucking shit, Gehrman is an amazing fight. Gehrman is S tier, no doubt. Gameplay, amazing. Music, amazing. Arena, amazing. Lore, amazing. This fucker checks all of the boxes, which means I should probably put him above Ludwig, but Ludwig is a more fun fight, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe Maria is too, I don't know, you can't stagger Gehrman as much. Gehrman's actually a pretty difficult boss. Even after you beat all of the DLC, he's actually a pretty tough boss, I'm not gonna lie. I love everything about Gehrman. His fight is amazing, it's tragic, it's difficult, it's not a complete parry fest, although he is pretty fucking parryable. Because he is a humanoid enemy, which most humanoid enemies in Bloodborne or bosses suffer from being too parryable. His arena is next level, I don't need to talk about that. His music is probably my favorite or second favorite track in the whole game. His lore is amazing. Again, I'm not going to spend like 20 minutes going on about his lore because this video is already as long as it is. But yeah, Gehrman goes in S. Themerian Descendant. This guy, I remember this guy being pretty fun. Chalice Dungeon boss. I put him in like, he's definitely more fun than the Emissary, Amygdala, Watchdog, and One Reborn, and Rum. Honestly, I think I put him in. I think he's more fun than Ligarius, to be honest. Now that I remember, this guy was pretty fun. This is the guy with the 2 sickles, I'm pretty sure, in the Chalice Dungeons. Yeah, I'll put him, I'll put him here. I remember this guy being pretty fun. So, yeah. There's also a boss called a Thumerian Elder, which I don't know why they didn't put on this list, because he's a pretty, like, not a huge boss, but he's still a boss in the Chalice Dungeons, so I don't know why they wouldn't put him on this list. he's the boss with all like the crazy weapon variations. I think he's got more weapon variations than Soul of Cinder, to be honest, which is kind of crazy to say. He switches between like a scythe, like a lance, a mace, like a spiked mace, and even a crossbow. This guy's got a crazy moveset. I don't know why they didn't mention this guy at all. He's the guy that looks like this. As for the Descendant, in his phase 2, all he does is like split his singular sickle into 2 sickles, so yeah. Anyways, I'll just add him in here, I guess, and put him in probably B tier, just above the Descendant. That seems about right. Keeper of the Old Lords. I'm pretty sure that this guy is a regular enemy in the Chalice dungeons that then later becomes the boss, but unlike Shadows of Yharnam, I actually think that this guy is a surprisingly good boss. Like, I remember this guy being pretty fucking agile, to be honest. But yeah, I like his hat, his fight is pretty fun in my opinion, and I think he uses the Shikage in the fight, not sure. Not much else to say about this guy. I'll put him here in C tier. Vicar Amelia. I love Vicar Amelia. I like Vicar Amelia. I put her as a fight. Where do I put her? Is she better than the Cleric Beast? Yes. Is she better than Murgo? No. I'm gonna do some crazy glazing here and put her in A tier, mid A tier boss. I love Amelia as a fight. I love the fact that she uses the same OST as the Cleric Beast. You know, some people might call that lazy. I think it makes sense. She's also a cleric, you know, Cleric Beast, whatever. Her design is amazing. The arena is pretty cool as well, and I think the fact that she can heal in the boss fight gives it more depth, makes it more fun, in my opinion. And yeah, very cool. Bloodstarved Beast. This guy is... Where do I put this guy? Bloodstarved Beast. Is he more fun than the Thumerian Descendant? No. But is he? I'm gonna put this guy in... He's a more... I think he's a more fun fight than Rom, definitely. More fun than One Reborn, than Amygdala. I don't know if he tops the Thumerian Descendant. I'm gonna put him in a very, very low B tier fight. You know, this guy... I think the poison in the later phases, especially in like the phase 3, is kind of annoying. You know, there's a bit too much spam. Uses it a bit too often. A bit too easy to get poisoned by this guy. You can kind of just sit behind him the whole fight. Pretty cool fight though. His music is also really intense towards the end. Really underrated soundtrack overall in my opinion. And I also just really like his design with the skin flaps that go over his face. Very cool. Undead Giant. This guy I remember actually being pretty decently fun to fight. That is, if you don't do half his health bar in one hit. Like, he actually has a pretty wide variety of attacks. Also, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that every time you fight this guy, you fight a different variant of him. Like, there's a version of him with 2 curved blades, a version of him with a cannon, I'm pretty sure, and then another version of him with, like, a club and, like, a hook whip variant. So, that's pretty cool. I think the reason I remember this fight so much is because they actually have a fair bit of health. But anyways, I think I put this guy in C tier right here. I think that makes sense. Alright, Mikolash. Fuck this piece of fucking garbage. I'm gonna make a new tier for this fucking guy. How do I make more tiers? Hold on, I'll figure it out. I need to make a new fucking tier for this dog shit fucking boss. Alright, okay, that's better. So this is the dog shit tier. Only truly abhorrent, disgusting, fucking dog shit fights go in this tier. Case in point, Mikolash. This fight is probably the worst fight in all the Souls games. And that's not even me being, like over-exaggerating or anything. This fight is hot buns. It is such dog shit. The whole fight revolves around, like... I don't even know why I'm explaining this fight. You know why? It's bad, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. This whole fight revolves around you chasing him around, like, his arena in the Nightmare Mensis. Like, the soundtrack's kind of cool, I guess, but the whole like concept of the boss fight is done so terribly. Like, you just, like, kind of have to force him into this room at the start, beat the shit out of him while his two, like, skeleton goons try to gank you. Then he disappears, talks about ascending to a higher plane. Then you chase him around some more until he falls into a box, you fall down, and then he proceeds to one-shot you with the Call Beyond or the Augur Rebreedus, or just some other bullshit attack. This fight is so dog shit that every time I replay this game and I get to this guy, I resort to cheesing him by just throwing poison knives at him and shooting black sky eyes at him, because that's how abhorrent this boss is. I don't cheese any other boss in this game, even if I don't like them. Amygdala, absolute dog shit fight. Celestial Emissary, I don't even need to cheese the fight because of how little HP it has. But you get the point. Like, this is the fight that I cheese because of how dog shit it is. It is done so fucking terribly. Mikolash in the lore is amazing, right? He's a fucking amazing character in the lore. He's just done so terribly in this boss fight. And giving this guy any more time spent talking about him would do him way more credit than he deserves. So I'm just going to move on to Moon Presence or Flora. I think Moon Presence as a fight is it's cool. It's a cool boss, but I'm ranking this based on overall boss, so I'm gonna put it in... Oh god, am I glazing if I put this above Cleric Beast? Okay, there's so many problems with this boss. There are so many problems at the start. I'm just gonna get this out of the way and just start off listing all the things that I just think that is bad with this boss. That, like, this boss is a product of wasted potential. Like Murgo, like Amygdala, like Rum. This fight is a product of just completely wasted potential, which is so sad because it has probably the best design, the greatest design in the entire game. Maybe Murgo tops it. I don't know. So let me just start with the things that I absolutely hate about this boss. First of all, he's got, like, absolutely no fucking HP whatsoever. And, like, I get the whole point of this fight is to show that, you know, you've consumed the umbilical cords and you're now on at least the same level as the Moon Presence, to the point where she can no longer embrace you and is forced to face you. And the Moon Presence isn't much of a fighter, so most of the fight is kind of spent with her. I don't want to say running away, but she seems scared of you, right? And I know that's the sort of message it's supposed to convey, that, like, oh, you know, the Moon Presence isn't hunting you anymore, you're hunting her. And the whole dynamic is, like, swapped there. You know, throughout the entirety of the game, it's been watching you, expecting to embrace you and capture you at the end of the game, but you ate the cords, and you're now on somewhat of a level to the point where you can challenge it and it fights you. It turns to fight you instead of just capturing you. And I get that that's the idea of the fight, but I feel like they could have done it in a much better way, in the sense that you could still be just barely able to challenge it, but have the fight actually be hard. Have it be, instead of you being barely able to challenge it and it being a piss easy fight, give it that same concept, but make it more intimidating in the sense that you're barely able to challenge it and it barely turns to fight you and take notice of you, and the fight becomes more of like you being a slight nuisance to it, as opposed to it being scared of you. I think that suits the fight a lot better, if you get what I mean, instead of it literally running pretty much just like shitting itself the whole fight. Like, oh, what the fuck, I didn't expect this guy to eat Great One organs for breakfast, and now I'm running away from him, and now he's doing, like, all my health with his fucking fire fucking saw cleaver. I think the first major flaw with the fight is the fight just doesn't have enough health at all. I honestly think that the Moon Presence's moves, if being left the way they are, they're not that bad. They're actually pretty fun to dodge, and they look really cool visually, along with the attack, which of course, you know, beams all your health down to a single smidgen, which is, I guess, supposed to represent that, like, the Moon Presence is so powerful, but it can't even encapture you. It can barely encapture you, but it can't because you ate the cords, and I guess that's the point it's trying to convey across. But still, I think that's the first thing that the fight did very wrong. Like, I think just by giving the boss more HP, I mean, I made a whole video on this, like, 3 months ago. It got, like, fucking 70 views. It fucking fell off like dog shit, but I made a whole video discussing It's not really that well put together at all, but you go watch it if you want. I'll link it down this link in the description below. Holy fucking shit, shameless plug. But I made a video discussing some like bullet point reasons what I think they could have done to make Moon Presence an S tier boss, which brings me on to my second point. In what I think this boss did terribly wrong is that I think it could have just had more attacks in general. You know, I said that the Moon Presence left the way it is in its current moveset would be more than enough, but I still think that it could just have more moves. But I'm not going to go repeating everything I said in that video because, well, that's why that video exists. And another thing that I think that they did really wrong with the boss is if you're going to make a sort of a two-phase to a boss, like you fight Garrett and then you fight Moon Presence, I think it would, maybe this is me just being a bit of an edgelord here, but I think it would make more sense if you're going to give Moon Presence that amount of HP, just make the player fight Gehrman once he dies to Moon Presence again. Or she, or whatever. Like, if you're going to give Moon Presence piss poor health and make it that fucking easy, at least make the player fight Gehrman again. That's just my take on it. Like, it's got such a cool cutscene, and the cutscene says so much about it, and to have it be such an easy fucking dog shit fight. I mean, actually, I think the fight's quite fun. I'm crazy hypocrite. I sound like a crazy hypocrite here. I think the fight is wasted potential, but the fight is actually quite fun if you handicap yourself a bit and use a weapon where you're not doing insane damage to the boss and wiping the floor with it in less than a minute and staggering it like crazy. I think the fight is actually quite fun, and it becomes a really cool fight where you're like not doing insane damage to it, so you're actually like fighting the boss properly or whatever. But yeah, huge waste of potential for this boss. I went over why I don't think it's good gameplay wise. Music, I think the music is very cool for this boss, very fitting to the environment. It's a bit of a short track, but I guess that's done purposely because the fight, they don't expect you to be fighting this boss for a very long time, so they make the track short, and it loops like a lot of times if you fight this boss for longer than around 3 minutes or so. Arena is, well, it's Gehrman's arena. It's amazing. I love the red moon, the blood moon in the background, just in the background. Like, the scenery for this boss is amazing. The music is amazing. The design is amazing. The attacks are even really cool, as I said before, especially the one where it, like, backs up and, like, kind of, like, backsteps and, like, swoops around 2 times to get away from you. That is amazingly done. And the use of, like, the tails behind it, like, sort of, like, whipping the ground, like, showing its like more of like a bestial nature about the boss. I think that's really cool. But ultimately, to bring it down to my main point, this boss is wasted potential. It's so fucking easy. It's got no health. If you're gonna give it that much health, make us fight Gehrman again to compensate for it being that fucking easy. And yeah, this is a flawed boss, but the design is peak, the lore is peak, if I didn't go over that before. This is an amazing boss. It's probably the most powerful boss in Bloodborne in terms of the lore. I think Ebridas and Murgo are obviously pretty close, but I love the whole idea of it, like, getting you to take out the other Great Ones for it, like, doing its, like, job, basically, for it, being sort of like the puppeteer in the whole game and just watching you from afar, only being visible when you take out Rom, sort of. So, yeah, overall, I've yapped for about fucking 10 minutes on this boss, because there's a lot to say. I don't even know if I got my points across clearly enough, but overall, taking all of that into consideration and how much of a flawed fucking wasted of a potential this fight is, despite all of that, I'm gonna chuck it in A tier because I just love... I'm glazing. Okay, hold on, I'm glazing, I'm fucking glazing. Let me be realistic here. This is my list, my opinion. Please don't fucking flame me or whatever in the comments or something. I gotta think. Gascoigne, Cleric Beast, Vicar, Amelia. Overall, I'd put it right here. Very low A tier. Right? Considering everything I said, I put it there. Alright, let's move on. A Dark Beast Parl. I like Parl. Parl is cool. Who doesn't like Parl? He's a cool beast boss that's actually fast. I mean, all of them are kind of fast, but whatever. Really cool design. Peak design. Very, very difficult. You know, if you fight him at the start of the game and you're in in the Hypogean jail. If you fight him later on in the game, like, you're kind of, I don't want to say supposed to, but just if you don't get to the secret area at the start of the game and fight him in Yahar'gul later on after Rom, he becomes kind of a joke, kind of a cakewalk. Depends how leveled you are then again. Music is pretty cool, you know, suits the boss, nothing to complain about there. It's not anything crazy like Maria's or fucking Ludwig's, Gehrman's, Lawrence's, or Koss, any of the DLC bosses, plus Gehrman, any Britis's. It's not anything crazy like that. Definitely very cool. Very challenging boss, has a very wide variety of moves in his arsenal, you know, doesn't suffer from like what I would say Cleric Beast suffers from, being able to do like fucking 4 moves. Very fast boss. Only gripe I have with this boss, I guess, is not really a problem, but you seem to be able to like kind of break his bones too easily, which I just realized makes sense because he's a fucking bone dog, so I'm just going to skip over that point completely. Overall, though, really cool boss. I don't know much to do with the significance of his lore. The only thing I know is that he is a dark beast, and the dark beasts are from, like, Loran or something, and there's, like, another one in the Chalice dungeons which looks exactly like him, along with the abhorrent dark beast, which uses electricity like him. But I think he's cool. Very cool boss. Very, very fun to fight. Camera is also kind of busted when it comes to this fight. Yeah, pretty good boss. I'll probably put him in like, let me think. He's a better fight than Moon Presence, than Cleric Beast. I think Amelia is a better fight than him in my opinion, because like she heals and that balances out the fight a bit more. There's a chance she just doesn't heal though, and the fight becomes a lot easier. There is a chance you just roll a 6 while fighting this boss and the boss doesn't fucking heal whatsoever. So I think I'll put Parl in... I'd say I'd put him in there. That seems like a pretty fair ranking. Mid-A tier, in my opinion. Mid-A tier. Alright, next up, Shadows of Yharnam. This is an Nazgul reference. This fight's hot dog shit. I don't see what people see in this boss. Some people like this boss for some reason. I still find that idea very hard to wrap my head around. I don't know what you find appealing about a triple gank fucking Nazgul reference boss that is just poor. Like, it's just a boring fight. Any boss where they later become a normal enemy is just really unappealing to me. I don't know, that might piss some people off because there might be some fights where that is actually a good thing, but I just think that the Shadows of Yharnam seems like a filler boss to me, in the sense that it's like, okay, okay, think about this for a second. There is like, what, how many bosses do you actually need to beat Bloodborne in the plainest terms? Hold on, let me go double check this real quick just to make sure I'm right. Right, so it's 7 bosses to just beat the game in its plainest terms. Them being Gascoigne, Amelia, Shadows of Yharnam, Rom, One Reborn, Miko Shit, and Murgo. Right? Now, out of those 7 bosses, 7 bosses just to beat Bloodborne, in the plainest terms, just to beat the game, you're not fighting Gehrman, you're not fighting Moon Presence, you're not getting True Ending or anything like that, you're not fighting any of the optional bosses, you're not touching the DLC, which is a crime, by the way. Out of those 7 bosses, the bosses out of those 7 bosses that are actually, like, good fights are, like, 3, and probably 2, because most people don't like Murgo. Them being Gascoigne and Amelia. Some people don't even like Amelia. So, out of the 7 fights that you need to do to just beat Bloodborne, the one fight that is, like, set in stone as a good fight, that everyone renownedly, like, just agrees is a good fight, is Gascoigne. So, this boss taking up the slot of one of the 7 bosses you need to beat the game and being an absolutely dogshit fight is just fucking abhorrent in my opinion. Like, this is a filler fight. I like, Bloodborne is rushed, every Souls game is rushed, I know that. Like, they genuinely got to this boss and thought, alright guys, what can we do to just put in a boss just cause? And it's just a terrible fight. I don't think it's as bad as, let's say, Celestial Emissary, because it can be kind of fun, I will say, but it's a filler boss. Like, in general, I think it's just these 3 dudes that in these black cloaks, that Gankyu, and I just think that there could have been a boss here that could have deserved this boss's place. I think it's a filler boss. I think it's a really garbage fight. But that being said, the music being really unmemorable. I'm pretty sure their music is like the same music used in the fucking Chalice Dungeon boss music. Pretty confident. The arena being alright. Lore is non-existent. Where would I put them? They're definitely not in D. They're not that bad. I'd say I'd put them there. Low C tier. Alright. Beast Possessed. What does that even say? Beast Possessed Soul. Alright, I remember vaguely nothing about this guy. He's a pretty unmemorable Chalice Dungeon boss. So I'm gonna put him above... I think he was above... I'll put him here. A high D tier. Merciless Watcher, absolute dogshit fight, but not worse than Mika shit. Anyways, also, before I forget about this, I just noticed that the Bloodletting Beast, Abhorrent Beast, and Forgotten Madman / Madman's Escort aren't actually on this tier list for some reason. So I'll just go on and add them in real quick and start off with the Bloodletting Beast. This guy I remember being kind of like a mid-Chalice Dungeon boss, to be honest. Not bad necessarily by any means, but just nothing insane, if you know what I mean. Like, I like the way that in his second phase, he like loses his head, I'm pretty sure, and then out comes this like parasite-looking thing that looks almost exactly like the one from Sekiro. Interesting. I guess Sekiro stole more things from Bloodborne other than just off-brand rip-off Lawrence. But yeah, other than that, as I said, I remember this guy being kind of mid. Although his phase 2 does make him a bit less mid, I guess, so I'll put him here in C tier. Then we have the Forgotten Madman / Madman's Escort fight. To be honest, I don't remember this fight a whole ton, but I'm pretty sure it's just this one guy that when you get to half health, another enemy joins the fight, and then it sort of becomes like a gank fight, kind of. But then again, I don't remember the fight being particularly annoying, probably because it was very easy, and I imagine I had quite a bit of fun with it. Maybe. If I remember, I think one guy uses the Holy Blade, while the other enemy that comes in later uses the Kirk Hammer. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this boss. I'll put it in high D tier, I guess. And finally, last but very much not least, we have the Abhorrent Beast. Now, you can actually fight this guy at the start of the game if you speak to that one guy in the Forbidden Woods on the roof. And yeah, this guy is a really challenging, and in my opinion, a really good fight. Very fast, very fun. Fight is super intense. And yeah, I really love his design, really visually appealing, just like Pearls, with like all the hairs like electrically charged and like stood up on his back. But then again, I really like any time electricity is shown or utilized in Bloodborne in any way. Overall, I feel like this fight is extremely fair, well balanced, nothing particularly bullshit to it. I'm not sure if you can parry him, but yeah, B tier. So, there you have it. Holy fucking shit, there you have it. Bloodborne boss tier list, all bosses tier list, not a single boss left out, I don't think. But yeah, apologies if this video came out or sounded a bit unput together. I'm not over here scripting 1 hour's fucking worth of dialogue like these fucking clone channels. Like, oh my god, guys, let me make a hyper edited video on ranking all the Souls bosses. Oh my god, this hasn't been done 1,000 times. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna make any other videos like this, because as I said at the start, I find these videos really boring, repetitive, and I think the internet is just way too full of them, and people need to get fucking original, and this is boring. Do something else. Holy fucking shit. But yeah, tell me if you, I don't know, agree with this list or not. I thought I might as well get this out here because I hadn't done any sort of ranking videos, which doesn't mean I should, but here I am. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Tell me if you agree with this list or not. Tell me if you think I'm fucking cooked and this is a dog shit garbage list and you think Amygdala's S tier for some reason. Like with with a lot of the bosses in Bloodborne, a lot of them are wasted potential, completely wasted potential, which is what I really don't like about this game. This is my favorite game of all time, and there are a lot of things wrong with it. So many things wrong with its bosses. Like, as I pointed out like 10 minutes ago, you only need to beat 7 bosses to beat the game in its basest form. And like 2 of those bosses out of the 7 are actually good boss fights. I mean, I like Murgo. I think Murgo's a pretty good boss fight, but she's too easy, right? So for me, it's like 3 out of 7. But that's 3 out of 7 fights to beat the game. That is not good in my opinion. So yeah, holy fucking shit. I think I'm actually going to have like a stroke or some shit after all the editing that took. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, wow. Oh my god. Anyways, that's pretty much it. See ya.